All right, we all want to rise and pledge allegiance. The flag's back by the door. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming. Recognition of visitors. Tim Moore.
Hello. How are you?
You didn't even sit down.
No, I didn't. Just wanted to mention a couple things that the Waterloo Community Action Committee is doing. On Monday, October 22nd, we will be hosting a community open forum in regards to any questions for levy. What we're anticipating doing is maybe having the board address a 5 to 10 minute speech or something on what this levy is about. And then we're going to open it to the floor for question and answers. Janet Esposito, the Portage County Auditor, will be in attendance for this as well. It will be held in the middle school gymnasium.
At 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. We already got the word out. I've got some emails out to the record courier. It's going to be in the around Waterloo section, I hope. I got him in time. He said he was going to put it in there. So we're hoping to have the community come and just basically ask general questions where they're not being, more about what the levy's about and what the future's going to hold and stuff. So the second one is Saturday, December 8th is the old-fashioned Christmas and community open house from 2 to 6 in the cafeteria in the middle school gymnasium. We have confirmed the honors choir and band for Waterloo will be playing. Mr. and Mrs. Claus will be there. We have confirmed a photographer that will take pictures for kids. We'll print it out right then and there. We do have the flyers here if anybody would like them. And we're also looking for more vendors. We have about 12, 15, up to 15 community vendors that are coming to sell crafts and stuff too. So we're working on that now throughout December 8th. Seems to be catching on pretty well.
I sent out an email to tell some different people about that, and someone sent me back something I'd like to forward. Can they just donate something towards, what is it, a silent auction you're having? If they can't come and set up?
I will turn it over to the organizer.
Silent auction, we'll have bake sale, refreshments going on. There's going to be a section within the cafeteria set up just for kids' activities. We're going to be ornament making letters to Santa. Opposite side, we'll have Santa set up, kind of keeping those separate. So at that point, hot cider, hot cocoa, those types of things. So if they want to donate baked goods, that'd be awesome. If they want to do the silent auction, that's awesome. And then we'll have all the vendors, not limited just to crafts. We've got several local businesses coming in as well. So,
Great.
Do you still have that Grinch costume?
I already have a Grinch.
Well, I was thinking,
And I have a whole
you
group
know,
of elves.
somehow
We're doing good.
he got out of this pie in the face stuff.
Yeah. He had
Dress
a
him up
birthday
like the
party.
Grinch, and then we bid on who gets to throw the pie in the face. I'm all about that.
Sorry to report.
I have a picture of him that we could blow up life-size of him as the Grinch, of Andy as the Grinch, and you could throw pies in it.
There we go. That would be good.
Well, the effect wouldn't be the same. I'd have to go take a walk.
Anything else, Timmy?
That's it. You guys have anything for us or questions or anything regarding any of the upcoming events?
Awesome job.
Thank you for what you do.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate all you guys do.
Regular meeting for WCAC is this Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
In the media center?
Yes.
All right. Roll call?
What's it, Eric? Here. Whittlesey?
Here.
Gump?
Here.
Fletcher? Here. Jones?
Here.
Meeting is called to order. Okay. Under the president's report, I just had one quick thing. We had a speaker in the middle school and in the high school last Wednesday. And his name was Ray McElroy, and I got to hear him in the high school. I thought he was amazing. I thought, and any of the kids you talked to, they all said he talked to us, he didn't talk at us. They understood everything he was saying. He was talking about good choices, and he was pretty blunt about things. And they laughed and they talked, and he knew when they murmur, he'd say, "Yeah, I know what you're saying." And he was right there with them, and I thought he did a phenomenal job. And it'd be nice to have him back again. And it was good timing. It was the Wednesday before homecoming, so it kind of, hopefully it sunk into a few kids. But he just did a wonderful job. And then they had something that evening that they could come. And I think we had, I don't know, did you get a count? I think
Yeah, I was told we had about 80 show up that night.
they came and they left. There was a volleyball game that night, so kids were coming. They thought they could catch him before they went to the volleyball game, and it kind of was backwards. So kids did come and go. So I think there were more total, but at the time he was speaking, there was probably about 80. So I thought he did a phenomenal job. So I want to thank everyone involved in bringing him to us. So, Superintendent?
Yeah, just to dovetail off of that real quick, we want to thank really Pastor Jason Moore out of Rootstown and Pastor Lee Kackner here in Atwater. From what I understand, the way that this works, they approached us last year about this, and we weren't able to fit it in when they had the speaker in town. But this year, they worked with Matt Montgomery and Nick Julia to get it arranged, and they apparently pool money together, area churches, and bring in a speaker to talk to local school districts, just a non-faith message about making good, positive choices. And so this Ray is a former NFL football player, and he's still, I guess, the chaplain of the Chicago Bears right now. He was started off by telling them about being in Dallas 2 nights before when they were playing on Monday night. But yeah, he really connected with them, and they did that for us for free. So I think they also were in Southeast and Rootstown and maybe another district too. So it was a great thing, and we thank them for providing us with that type of opportunity. Under the superintendent report, I have a few updates. I'm not going to spend time personally talking about those because I have written out what I wanted to share about them. But I do want to take a moment. The one, Jeff Freeman, who I wrote about here in regards to this memorial tree, he's actually here tonight. So I thought just for a moment, let him go ahead and share his thoughts with this tree that he's looking to donate on behalf of the class of 1979. Jeff?
Okay, all right, well, thank you. I'm supposed to stand up, but anyway, obviously, my name is Jeff Freeman. I graduated in 1979 from Waterloo. I brought my yearbook and everything to prove it. But yeah, we had I call us a somewhat unique class. When we came to Waterloo, we had, I believe, 164 freshmen. The school at the time was classified as like single A, like as far as sports, we were a small school. Our class, we jumped up to double A because there's obviously too many more guys, so we went into the double A era from that. We graduated 148. And I think to this day, I think that's still the largest class yet. There's still a lot of us in this area. I run into people all the time. Did you guys read the letter? Like I sent you guys a
Yes.
letter about four.
Yes.
You read it out loud, or
We did not read it out loud.
okay. But anyway, we run into each other, grocery stores, everywhere, and we talk about each other. Who has kids, now grandkids, who's retired. It's amazing how fast time flies. But we talk also about classmates that we lost. And right now, I know of 10, at least 10 that we've lost. And we sit around and we talk about just stories, memories of them. And it's amazing. It's amazing how these people really impacted us, and how we changed, and just how much we miss them and everything. So I know obviously with the additions and the changes made here to the school, which I was given a tour. Dr. Moore gave me a nice tour of the new facilities here. But I thought it'd be nice if we could add maybe something to the school to kind of show that we kind of support this idea. Some people, I think, were a little leery of getting rid of the Randolph School, the Atwater School. But again, now that it's all happened, it's a good thing. People really seem to like it. So again, we came out here on a few like scouting tours, looking at the different areas. It's just watching the students, like how they come and go, you know, if they walk in the grass, and I guess that's not really encouraged in that. But I think we kind of decided somewhat on an area right outside the superintendent's office. There's a grassed area. I measured it. It's roughly a 30-foot by 75-foot rectangular area. Full sun. I took pictures of it, and I went down to the Seacrest Arboretum, which is down in Brewster. I got a really nice tour by those people. They showed me a number of trees, and I took some pictures. But there were 2 trees that were really good. One is a maple. It's they call it a celebration maple. They're very colorful. And I kind of wrote some things down about the trees. I don't want to. If I'm talking anyone's head off, just tell me and I'll. But I think the biggest question is going to be is like the type of tree. If you want something that's going to be safe, that's going to grow big in time, or if you want to keep a smaller tree that it may just be more ornamental. And then I think we also discussed possibly putting maybe like a little flower bed, and we could maybe have the current students, you know, whoever is currently going here, maybe they could add to it every year. It's something they could, you know, just something to kind of keep the current students along with, you know, us almost using walkers, whatever. But I guess we're not quite there yet. But you know, like I said, there are a lot of options, a lot of choices yet. But like I said, the 2 trees that really stood out, like I said, the one is the celebration maple. That's going to grow to about 70 to 90 feet. But we're talking a lot, you know, many years from now. And it'll have what they call a 30-foot drip line, which means that's like kind of like how much the branches are going to be out. So it would cover. It would offer some significant shade and time. A second tree that was really good, I thought was really good, was what they call a black gum tree. And that's going to grow to about a 40-foot height. That only has a 15 to 20-foot drip line. They told me it was slow growing, and I guess their definition of slow growing is like 3 to 6 inches in height a year. So again, that's not a tree that you're going to get a lot of shade from, but it would be obviously almost, you know, kind of more like a monument. It would be something that people would notice. And it too is colorful. It has fewer roots, so I don't think you have to worry so much about the curve. You know, and I realize nothing out here is going to last forever as far as parking lot and those facilities, whatnot. But obviously, we don't want to plant anything that's going to have a lot of root damage or you know, it's going to cause any problems. Obviously, something that's going to last. But again, I talked to a number of classmates, and they all seem really happy to do it. And again, we just talk about our friends that you know that we lost. We refer to them as absent friends.
Well, I shared your letter with the board. Everybody thought it was a great idea to do this, and so I think what we're targeting, like I wrote, is to do some type of planning and dedication ceremony in the spring. Is that, you didn't find anything out differently as far as time of year to plant when you were down there?
They encourage spring.
Okay. So we'll work with Jeff to finalize the selection of the tree and set a date for the spring and report back to you.
Is there going to be a marker or something to say who originally planted the tree, or? You just want it to be known.
I guess we'll just, we can maybe come up with, we can find someone who can maybe come up with a marker. We can maybe create something. To tell you the truth, I'm actually, it's kind of awkward for me to even stand up and even be doing this, but, initially, I think I just wanted to just kind of plant the tree and then just kind of tell people that we did it. But, these, our friends, they really need to be mentioned, and they need to be recognized. I'll tell you, if I could just, I'm talking everyone's head off, I apologize. But two classmates I wanted to talk about real quick. One classmate, good friend of mine, his name's Craig Suda. And as soon as we graduated, he went into the Air Force. And he was so happy and so proud to be in the Air Force. He sent everyone pictures of him in uniform. And they were working on a plane that he said it could fly where radar would detect it. And it was like a real quiet, hush thing. But he was just so excited about, he just wanted to serve the country. He wanted to do, everything. He was really proud. He was stricken with cancer and had a long, really bad time of it. But we lost him in 1984. Another individual, and a little bit, I'll try to talk really fast, but his name is David Cambridge, and he went to Maplewood, and he took plastics at Maplewood, and he went to Akron U with me and some friends, and he majored in chemical engineering, and we were in chemistry class together. We were in the second semester, and professor's going on his lecture, and I'm sorry, excuse me, what he says. He goes, I think that should be a double bond. I'm sorry, and the professor just stepped back and he just stood at it. And he was telling the professor, like where he goofed up. And then he's like nodding his head, and he turns around and he acknowledges it. And we had the most fun with him. As we walked out, we teased him. And of course, you got to remember that this was, we were 79, but we're teasing him and we're saying, you went to Maplewood, When you guys learned this stuff at Maplewood, and it was just, but I think he took plastics. They had a program there called plastics. But he went on, he graduated chemical engineering. He had his master's degree in 5 years, and he was working with a company, and they were coming up with a biodegradable plastic. So plastic bottles, disposable diapers. So anything that went into a landfill, they were working on it to where it wouldn't, be there, be there outliving all of us. But he had a heart attack. But I just want to tell you about just two people. But he was an influence on me. He helped me, motivated me to get through school, study, and Craig always wanted to know the people I'm meeting. He wanted pictures because he was on base. And he got so mad when Christmas parties, Halloween parties, we didn't go out and do anything. He kept saying, you gotta live, you gotta do this stuff. You just gotta keep doing it. And like I said, me and my old friends, we still talk about them and what they said. So, but anyway, that's specifically for our class. But I know people here, classes here. Everyone's lost someone, so you could always put a flower out there. You could always use their memories for that tree. So, but anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you for doing this, and I'll be in touch to
Yeah.
finalize the tree and the date for the spring. Thanks for coming. I had a couple of discussion items for tonight. The first is in regards to the levy. Just wanted to share what the levy committee is doing in regards to November. So you already heard Tim and the others from the Community Action Committee talk about this question-answer forum for the community on October 22nd, where Janet Esposito will be. We're also working on Lee Horning is getting yard signs distributed. He started that this week. They're starting to go all around. He said he'll have all of those out and up by the end of the weekend. We have a mailer that we're working with Miller Presort, who's worked with the levy committee before, that will be targeted to registered voters in our townships and should go out somewhere. Households should receive that the week prior to the election. They usually time that to get there very close, but it's safe enough to make sure it gets there. We also have a call in to Oaksey, who has allowed us to use their automated system for the levy committee out of Columbus to do a message about reminding people to get out, vote, support the school on election day. So Bill Patisick, who's the one that arranges that for us, is checking into when that availability will be and when he's supposed to get back to me. So we usually get word back on that really quick. Usually they call us one day, tell us it needs to be recorded the next, and then it's going out right away. So that's kind of where we're at right now with things. I don't know if there want any questions or other discussion items.
Just one of the meeting on the 22nd, you're going to make the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can come and be in attendance, it will not be an official board meeting.
That's correct. We're not going to make it a special meeting. There's nothing though that would prohibit all 5 of you from being there and/or, and sharing a thought or whatever if you feel the need to when you're there. But Todd and I will take care of putting together the brief presentation and then being the point people for the questions and answers that come. And we think it's a great idea to have Janet Esposito there, especially with the reevaluations that have just been done and people being notified with their new values. She was good 2 years ago when she came to a similar thing for us here. And I think it's probably even more timely now with everything that people are getting from her office. So we're appreciative. She's been pretty busy lately, but she's making time in her schedule to be here, so we're thankful for that. Anything else levy-wise, Brian?
We may want to rethink that automatic call.
Okay.
I work out of my home office, and I get, on an average, during the workday, of 6 automated phone calls every day. Each and every day. I mean, it is just absolutely, I just want to throw my phone in. It's just crazy. And then I get another 5 or 6 every night. And I don't know, maybe they're all calling me, but I think that people are just getting so flooded. At one point I said, the next person that calls me, I'm not voting for them. But everybody's called, I might as well stay home. If that was the case, because everybody's called.
Sure.
Several times. And every party's called several times. And every special interest group's called several times. With me, I don't know.
I had the same concern. I said the same thing. I said, it's such, you're between a rock and a hard place because you think, I agree. I mean, no one wants, but the second we don't,
Well, what about
what group's going to come out and say we didn't do everything we could do?
Well, what about taking a half page out in the paper that says, instead of bothering you at home, with an unwanted phone call, we are asking you for your support.
That sounds like a bad idea.
That doesn't sound like a bad
Well,
idea.
what's interesting is that this Randall guy in the levy committee was working with from Support Ohio Schools. He will tell you his expert opinion is that both of those are a waste of money. He said robocalls do nothing, newspaper ads are a waste of money. I don't know, when we have this discussion about the robocall, one thing that we have to keep in mind is the last three of our 4 elections, there's been a call that's been put out automated to voters, usually the Sunday prior to the election, encouraging people to vote no. And so, when I did get feedback from that were positive for the call, their concern was is that the last thing we want people hearing. I'm not sure, quite honestly, in my own opinion, whether it's effective either way, to be honest. So, if the desire of the board is to not do that call, I'm not attached to it. Take that back to our committee, so.
Well, and the last couple of times, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know the one I did was on a Friday, and then they followed up on a Sunday. So when you say that, they still were the last word, because there's no way OPSI can get us in on Monday night. It's just not going to happen.
Probably not this time. That's
No.
what they were looking at.
So, I mean, if they can, that's one thing, but I don't see that happening. So they're going to be the last word anyway, and I agree. I mean, if it's coming,
It's so frustrating.
It is.
I mean,
I got rid of my own phone because
Yeah, I don't
Being
think those,
serious, I
because I don't have a
It's
home
not
line.
the answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're allowed to make those calls and not, you can report those and not get those calls, but
I've done
somehow
that.
they filter through, you get them anyway.
Right.
As far as the newspaper ad, coming from the business part of it and having a business for many years, that is nothing but a waste of money, total waste of money. You can do that big half-page ad. The only people that are going to see it are the people that always get the paper and the people that are always looking for it. It's always the same people. End of story. I've done it. I've learned the hard way. I've spent tons and tons of money on it. I just don't think it's worth the money that it costs, because it's a great expense to put a half-page ad in. I mean, that's my point of view. I don't know about the
Do we
rest of
still
you.
have a levy Facebook page?
we have a levy website that we gained control of from the person who was doing it for us last night. And so we're working on getting that.
Maybe we just put it on there, what Brian said.
Right, or
Say, if anyone asks, we're not going to bother you at home in your personal time. Hey, here's.
I mean, if you want to make a call, make a call. I just know that
No, I agree with you.
I'm one of those people that I've always been respectful when people call me, salespeople as well as public interest group. I'm always listening to their message and I'm saying, no, thank you, or donations, okay, I'll donate to this charity or that charity. But it's gotten so bad that as soon as I hang up right away. It's just insane, the amount of calls. I mean, it's just, it's insane.
Well, everybody's doing it now.
Everybody's.
Everybody.
This is such a packed election, with so
Right.
many issues and so many, it's, might be a message, it's gonna get lost. I mean, if it was an off election,
Right.
then it might be something that would show value or would motivate someone to take the initiative to get out and vote, because the off elections historically draw a smaller crowd. I think right now they're just getting everything. I'm in the same boat every night. I've got caller ID and it's outrageous. I'm getting calls from all over the country, so.
One of the things we used to do, this was back, 25 years ago, or even more, because some of it started before I was on the board, is you would get a thing that says, we support the levy, we support the Waterloo local schools levy, something to that effect, kids welfare issue, whatever. And then it would list, everybody that signed their name would donate $5 to put that in the paper. And then people that would help pay for, that would actually pay for the cost of the
And those
ad.
people are looking for it,
And
they
then,
put
and
their
then people, and
$5 in.
then people are looking for it, and maybe if I did it, maybe I had grandkids, maybe my grandkids or my kids would be looking for it, something maybe just an idea.
But I don't think we have enough time to do that this time, do you? That would be, you really have to organize it. If you didn't get asked, or if you didn't,
Do like 3 names, 95.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but you get 200 names in there, they're $5 a piece, that's $1,000.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
That's better.
you could put,
Right.
I'm sure that you could put,
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, if I could ask a question. What do the students know about the levy? Like, do they know what's at risk if it doesn't pass? Do they know why the levy, because if the kids understood, if they went home and talked to their parents.
Yeah, well, I have an opinion on that, but maybe those of you that are parents can speak up.
We've told the kids that, we've said that to the kids before. When they come, there's one teacher here in the school that has the kids come to a board meeting as part of their class. And when they come here, we tell them that. We say, you know, this could start with you. Go home and ask your parents, number one, if they're registered to vote. Number two, if they vote, even if they're registered. And then three, you know, ask them if they'll, you know, ask them to support the school. So we have done that in a smaller scale. We did have a student committee at one point too. If they're interested, they know what's going on. But you're mostly talking about kids in the high school. You're talking about the ones that are in government classes because they're being taught it. So, or they've already had it.
But the levy also has already, I mean, with our financial situation, virtually every kid has been impacted by the situation that we're in financially. So, I mean, they understand that this levy is not going to cure everything. It's not going to make us what we were maybe 10 years ago. But, you know, when you deal with the pay-to-play and the loss of curriculum and advanced placement opportunities and things of that nature that, you know, some of the more well-off supported schools take advantage of, then it does impact us. And I have had, you know, my daughter ask about, you know, wow, I want this class so bad, but I hear it might get canceled because of financial reasons, whether it's with, you know, we don't have the resources to bring in the amount of staff necessary to effectively teach or offer this course, as well as the amount of kids that want to participate in extracurricular activities. You know, it's not as easy as your ability to perform at that level. Now it's a financial consideration. And so they are impacted, and they are aware of it, and it is something that's discussed among the kids because they're actually the recipient of the situation that we're in. That's what they have to live within those parameters. So.
Yeah, they do.
I was just gonna say that, you know, there's a fine line there too. Because you gotta be careful because if you're pushing the kids too much with the levy, well then people are gonna say, you know, you're using the kids. So yeah, it is a real fine line. It's a you know, just trying to stay where you can give enough information, but off the point where you're giving too much and people are gonna get upset with you.
I did have one other thing on the levy, just wanted to mention. Bob Berardi, I think he used to work here. He contacted me at the end of last week and then he faxed over tonight. I forget the dimensions of this, but it's going to be a very large wooden sign that he's having painted, and he's going to put it in his yard, which is right down here on Waterloo Road. Vote yes on issue 42 for the future of Waterloo schools. So he said that should be up in his yard by the middle of next week, I believe. He said he did that one other time for the schools when the bond issue passed, actually. So I want to thank him for stepping up and doing that. He wanted me to share what he thought he was going to put on there with you in case you have any feedback. Seems fine to me, but I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that.
We used to have some wooden signs around here that we would put at the entrance, but I think they've become dilapidated to the point where they're not held up anymore. No?
Andy, can I dovetail a little bit on the tree?
Sure.
You know, maybe Jeff said he measured an area that's 30 by 70, and I don't know what kind of area you were thinking of. Maybe it'd be good to designate that area as I can't think of the right name, a memorial garden, if you will, or something. And then, you know, that could be, the tree would be the first part of the center point, and I think we should actually name it whatever it's going to be. And put a plaque, a granite type plaque out there, something that would last, something,
That's an idea.
the Waterloo, whatever.
We have those, when I was telling Jeff, we have those stones from the buildings that we've been trying to figure out something to do with too. So maybe there's a way to do all of that together. So that's a great idea. Jeff, we'll have some further discussion.
And also, well, I guess, if you remember my awful artwork, but
Yeah,
I was kind of, you remember the
I
artwork?
do remember.
But I attempted, I kind of drew like a view of downward tree, okay, so you put a circle around it, and then to incorporate like our Viking board, put like the horned heart on top of it. And then after you've done, like you said, the school has like a garden club.
Yes, we have Ellen Rubacher's group, whatever I forget what they call themselves, but it's basically a garden.
They could be recruited,
Sprouts.
that could keep like the current students involved. Also, you can get like a white gravel. White gravel would look nice. It would look like the white orange itself. Not that difficult to lay out.
That's a great idea.
Something like
I mean,
that.
maybe we can incorporate all of that stuff together in some way. And if that's the case of what we're doing, there might be a better space over there. Jeff and I had spoke about having somewhere where it can be seen.
I think it would be nice to get it someplace where it's seen. I forget exactly where I was. It might have been last year. I was somewhere down south. And we were playing ball. Something happened at the regular field, the college field we were supposed to play, so we played at a real nice high school field. And the entrance into the ballpark, they had a memorial garden for the athletes that had passed away, from that school district. And it was it'd be like equivalent to the entrance into the football stadium, which that's not really what we're looking for here. We're looking for a memorial garden for the student body, if you will, but something. We have, and I just thinking out loud, this might not be the best place. We have the Alex Cost stone out there, and I think there's a tree that goes really associated with that also. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right location, but if it is, that would be a place to start.
Sure.
I'm sure we can find some place where there's a right place.
Well, and also just
Maybe
something
go-
else that you might, when you're talking about driving by, if you go, the boys soccer team played at Marlington one day, and they don't play on the big field, they play, when you go down, what's the name? No, it's what's the name? Mullen, M-O-U, something. Anyway, it's off of Easton, and you turn like right at the Arlington School, and you go down, and it's on the right-hand side, and they started that. They started one, and then they build on, and they build on, and they have a greenhouse, so they have a horticulture section. But that's what it is, and every so often they have a stone, like the ones we used to have out here, and then they have on the different sayings by Thoreau and different people like that, but it's got different seating areas and walkways, and it's absolutely beautiful. So, and that's how they started. They just said, okay, let's start with one tree, and then so if you drive down there, I think anyone can go in there, but you just pull in. It's a gravel park, but and then you go in. But it would be a nice thing to get ideas from.
Yeah. Maybe that's not the right location because of all the windows in the building, but we've got an awful lot of green space right on this side of the building.
Right where it says Waterloo High School.
And there's no windows, there's one door, I think, but there's no windows or anything out there.
I think once you got it started,
You need a lot of space. That 30 by 70.
you may need a lot of space once everybody starts finding out that, I think
we
they're
can
really
really work further on it. There's plenty of different areas, so.
Because that is a great idea to just, it's super.
Okay, anything else on the levy? So it seems like the opinion of the board is stay away from the robocall. Is that a fair assessment? I missed what you said, Diane. I heard you say you don't have I didn't hear if you said something.
I don't get those calls anymore.
Okay, distance to athletic contests. So we've had some discussion about this too, that came up. We had a game that was about an hour and a half away. It was on the schedule, and I think the question was asked whether we should have a policy to keep games within an hour. I guess my thoughts would be that, well, I think we try to do that on a regular basis. I'm not sure we want to necessarily develop a policy that prohibits stuff that's further away, because you never know what's going to be needed to fill a full season schedule or to, be competitive with one of our sports if needed. So my recommendation would be that, we should continue to do what we've been doing, which is try to stay close, understanding that there may be times where we have reasons that we don't. But we wanted to have some discussion on it. It was an item that came up, and I don't want to just have it go away without making sure that we've had some good discussion on it. So those are my thoughts.
Can we do it on a case by case?
Well, I think if it's on the schedule, that's one thing, and people are prepared for it. In this case, it was thrown at them on a Monday. It happened on a Saturday. There was a band show the same Saturday. It was the way it happened this time. But also, we discussed it, how long ago was that, Ryan?
That would have been when.
You weren't at the last meeting, so I was all by myself going, I don't remember.
It was when the boys soccer team went down to play Vernon.
I remember, that's why I said I knew John was on the soccer team at the time. And you were like, oh my gosh, we drove an hour and a half away. So, and we discussed it, and at the time, we were also cutting out-of-state field trips. We were cutting, at the time, I think we might have cut all field trips, and then they sort of, some of them, a few of them come back locally. Like, we used to go to Cleveland Zoo, now we go to the Akron Zoo. We just pulled everything closer, so it doesn't cost as much.
Oh,
So-
the field trips that are happening right now are being paid. The ones that happen, for example, at the elementary school, you're paying through your student account from the fundraising stuff that
Right.
the students do. And I think that's the difference. It used to be that, from what I understand, that those would come out of our general expense fund. Now, if we have field trips happening, Ken Riley took the environmental science class up the street to the farm, and he pays for that out of his science club. It's not an expense that the
Right.
district incurs. As far as regular field trips go, we're not sending people everywhere. We do have one, we just paid for our yearbook class to go to something that they need to, and that did come out of the district. That was part of the class with what needed to occur. So by and large, the field trips, if they happen, are being paid out of non-general fund areas. The athletic contest stuff, I looked, I couldn't find anything. It doesn't mean that there wasn't something, but I did
There was
look
a
back.
discussion, there was never a policy.
No, there's never a policy.
I went back and looked to see if there was anything put in writing. I couldn't left guidance after a meeting. It doesn't mean there wasn't. I just couldn't look at it. So
It's been a while. Well done, very
It was
well.
his senior year, so he graduated in 2000. So it had been the fall of 2000, it had been the fall of 2009.
It was like the first football game this year. That team came up they were 2.5 hours. They were down in Woodsville.
Well, in myself, I mean, things have changed a little bit, because we have a couple different things. We need to play a pretty full schedule, is one thing, because people are paying
Right.
X number of dollars per year to play, so we want to give them as many games as we can. And sometimes, I mean, you just can't find the games locally, so you kind of, I mean, obviously, the first choice would be to find the games, fill the schedule locally.
And next year, it's going to change with East Canton and Wyndham leaving. We'll have,
Two more
we'll have, out of the 10 games, we'll have 4 non-conference games. It's hard enough trying to get people to play, so.
And the thing that you don't want to do, which we used to always do, is we would find local schools that were so much bigger than us.
Yeah.
So we would get pounded. I remember one year we started out, our combined score of our first 3 games one year in football was like 6 to like 120. And we lost 3 or 4 players for the season. So by the time we started our league contest, number one, everybody was demoralized because they just got thrashed. The first
Or
3
they were
games.
injured.
And then they were
Yeah.
injured, and it was just, I mean, it just becomes, with kids in sports, or kids in anything, part of it, is getting them believing in themselves. And once you do that, you're heading on the right track. Well, and you get beat 6 to 130 or 120 in your first 3 games, there's not many positive thoughts going through back to that kid's mind, so.
This is a discussion for another meeting, but there's been a lot of talk flying around about maybe looking for a different conference or creating a new one. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to at least talk about it.
But I don't think that we need to, I mean, to me, we need another policy, like we need another expense.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, just if somebody wants to go somewhere, just
We need to have it,
ask.
and we need to have the schedule set up and planned ahead of time, like we normally do, have it approved. And I think we need to make sure the coaches and the administration, the school sports administration staff know that, hey, we want to stay, you know, we like to stay local. And maybe we still play East Canton, and even though they're not our league, maybe we still play one of them.
How would you like to be East Canton traveling to Woodridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, think about that. Well, I don't like playing Woodridge well per night, but anyway, that's a long way. It is, it's a hike.
Any other thoughts? Okay, so we got 2 presentations tonight. First, I've asked Tracy Early, our elementary principal, to talk to you about this 3rd grade reading guarantee. This is a huge deal with a lot of burdens placed on local districts. That was part of the biennial budget bill that passed recently, and they enacted this right away. So Tracy's going to take you through and tell you about it and tell you how we've responded to that. And I thank Tracy for being here. I know it's been a long couple of days. They've got Grandparents' Day, the last few days they went very well. So thanks, Tracy.
Okay, thank you. This program is mandated by the State Department of Education. Therefore, we're required to do what is listed here. And there are some things that are for this school year and some things that are for next school year. So I try to, divide everything out for you, and we'll try to get through them here. All right, so the 2 main points of the law, the very first one is that you need to give some type of reading diagnostic test to all students in grades K through 3. And it has to be done in the month of September. Okay. The second part is that the Board of Education needs to adopt policies regarding these assessments, and also what you are going to do with students who are being retained, which we'll get into later. So you've already done that actually, and when we go through them, we'll get through it. All right, so we gave the test, we gave the ODE reading diagnostic test up from the previous grade level, because we've got kids coming in, we're not going to give them the 1st grade test if they have not been in 1st grade for the entire year. So we gave the kindergarten test, which we were allowed to do. All right, so from there, students are determined to be either on track with further progress and monitoring needed, or they are not on track. And the law really specifies what you need to do for those students who are not on track. So here we go. First thing. Okay. You need to immediately begin reading intervention targeted to the specific needs of the child, which is either the 2 areas, which is reading fluency or reading comprehension. You need to develop a plan, which is just a basic intervention plan. I have some examples later on. And you need to follow through with that. You need to sit down, meet with the parents, write up your goals, track the student's progress, come back to it and see if the child's making progress. Then in the 2013-14 school year, if the students, you need to provide a teacher who has passed either a reading instruction test, which is to be developed by ODE yet, or they have to be having a reading endorsement on their certificate. So that's one of the trickier ones.
Okay, just real quick. Okay, that's due next school year.
That is correct.
They
Next
haven't
school year.
developed it yet,
That's correct.
but our teachers have to be educated in it.
That's for students who are considered not on track.
How is that even possible?
Well, we will see when the state comes out with that in the spring, what that test looks like. We don't have any guidance on this yet.
Okay.
So what we're thinking, Amy and I have talked about this several times, we're thinking that because not everyone is reading endorsed. All of your newer teachers that are K-3, most of them are, but a lot of the veteran teachers are not reading endorsed. So they're going to come up with this test to figure out if a person can be, considered a master teacher in reading.
So it is something that's already out there that,
No. They have not developed
The
it yet.
reading endorsed.
The reading endorsement is already out there.
Okay.
You have to take classes in order to get that on your certificate.
Okay, got it, okay.
Okay, told you this would be a long one.
Well, no, it just
That's
didn't,
okay.
I'm like, physically, how can you even do that? There's
Yeah,
not
well,
enough
it's-
hours in the day.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Okay, so you need to develop a plan. This is what we have to do. These are requirements. They must be research-based strategies, which means there's, a whole list of slew of things that are considered research-based strategies, which are just best practices in teaching. There are some programs that are considered this. We have a combination of all of those. If the student is being retained after the school year, and we'll go into the specifics of how they will be retained, or how they are retained, they have to have 90 minutes of instruction for reading. That's one of the stipulations, if they're retained. All right, and then we have to submit to ODE all of the test scores that we did already this September, and then we quarterly do assessments throughout the year, so we have to submit all of those test scores too, because that is the other part of the law. Any other test that you give, you have to submit those scores too. Okay. That blown your mind yet? All right, so here's the very first thing. A lot of this has to do, I don't know if you remember the old 4th grade reading guarantee. I don't know if anybody was around back then. There were some things that they just did not work. That program did not work, so they have brought it down to the 3rd grade and put different stipulations on it. If the child is in grades K1 or 2, and we go through all of this process, and we determine that the child has made good progress and we think that they can move on, we can move them on. If we think the child has not made good progress, then we can retain them, okay? Which is not anything really different than what we do now currently, but it's just now part of this law. All right. Now, students who are in 3rd grade, now this is where things get a little trickier. ODE has made a cut score. The cut score for this year for the Ohio reading test between the fall score and the spring score, students must receive a 390 or higher in order to be promoted to the next grade level. Okay. Okay. If the student scores below 390, okay, we can decide that if we have used like the STAR assessment, if you guys have heard of that, that was our other big one that we purchased this year. If they are showing that they are at, at 3rd grade level or above that 3rd grade, we can then promote them. The other option is to promote the student to 4th grade, provide the interventions as listed. That is what we can do this year, or we can retain the student. Okay, so we actually have some options this year, which compared to next school year, we don't have the options. And this is where things change. During the 2013-14 school year, if a student receives a score of 393 or lower, okay, they must be retained. So the wording's changed now, except for the following. The student is LEP, which is limited English proficient. The student's IP says that we can exempt them from the, regulations from this. We can say that we can move them on. Or the third thing is that they have demonstrated competency on an alternative assessment, which has not been created yet by ODE. Yes, you're hearing my disdain in this. That's correct. All right, any student receiving intensive intervention for 2 years and was previously retained in grade 1 or 2, K1 or 2, they can be moved on. I know. This is the law, so this is what's going to hit next school year. So these are the requirements. So if you do not meet any of these requirements, the student will be retained. At least that's what it is this year. Okay? All right, so compliance information, there are set deadlines for all of this. The first thing was that we had to submit a survey. Dr. Hill already did that, saying which assessments we would be using. Then by the 30th, you needed to adopt a policy, which you have already done. I think there's something else in there. Okay. All right. So for students, okay, there's more to that, but I'll get back to it somewhere else. Students must have a high-performing teacher during the 2013-2014 if the student's retained. Okay, the high-performing teacher is going to be based on the teacher's student performance data and performance reviews. And ODE has not given guidance yet for that. As you can see, it'll come in spring of 2013. All right. The
Can I
other
ask
thing,
a question real
yes.
quick? What is a high-performing teacher?
Great question, I can't answer it.
They're
Until
trying to
ODE
get-
comes out and says this is a high-performing teacher, and what those, what that's gonna mean, I cannot answer it.
They're trying to push that performance where the teachers get evaluated, and
That is correct.
performance is how they
Kind of intertwined it. It's not exactly the same.
They didn't get what they
Don't know what it
wanted
mean.
with issue two, so they're gonna sneak it in from the back door on this.
That's my belief also, but we'll see when it comes out in the spring. As you can see, a lot of this is mandated, and some of this stuff, they still do not know what they're doing yet. There's a lot of things.
I've worked for the state for 26 years,
Yeah.
believe me.
Okay.
I live it every day.
All right. And then here's the other part. If a student demonstrates proficiency, like say in math, okay, we then have to teach them at the 4th grade level for math or any other subject area, and also teach them the 3rd grade reading. So that's another one. So yet to be determined how that's going to look, and we'll see. Okay, so back to the compliance things. We had to give the diagnostic test, which we gave. Okay. We had to send a letter home to all students who were considered not on track. I sent a letter home to everybody. Okay. Any student that was grades K1 and 2, they got a letter stating that this was the test that their child took. These are their test results. You probably don't want to. And if the child was not on track, then they got another letter, okay, saying that they were not on track and we had to follow specific guidelines. All right, by November 30th, all of those students who are not on track after we did this first round of testing, we have to hold an intervention assistance team meeting with all of them and go through and write a reading plan for them, what programs we are going to be using, how much support they are getting, what it actually looks like, okay? So that's where we're at. That's the step I'm on currently. I've done everything before this. We're now on this step right now. Okay. Just like a typical IAT, okay, which is intervention systems team, you just work with the student. You have the goals that you have written onto the plan, provide the interventions. Is the student making progress? Gather data. And then just, you continue to use that data and then continue to inform the instruction. That's just basic IAT. That's been around for, 20-some years. Okay. So after a 2-month period, we've got 2 things we can do here. If the interventions are successful and the child's now reading at the grade level, where they should be at that month, we can release them out of all these tutoring services and everything else that we're providing them. Okay. If they are not successful, we need to go back, okay, and continue to work with that student, providing more intervention until the child is determined on track. And those are those words that the state has come up with. Okay. If we go through this whole entire process, and then at the end of this year, the child is still not making good progress, the team can decide, yes, we're going to retain the student. Okay, onward. Okay, so we talked about this. We've completed the test. The kindergartners, let's go back up. 1 through 3 students, grade levels 1 through 3, they took the short screener of the previous year because you don't want them to take year-end skills tests when it's the beginning of the year. The kindergartners, there's no year-end test, okay, for them to take for beginning. So this is kind of interesting what happened here. This first came out, which was like September, 10th, 13th, something like that. They said everybody had to use the screener for kindergarten on the diagnostic. And that is a year-end test. Because everybody's test scores were really low, people complained to the State Department. They came out 3 days later and said, oh, by the way, we'll let you use the crawl scores, which is the kindergarten reading assessment for literacy, the readiness test for literacy, which is a much more test that's much more geared to beginning readers, beginning kindergartners. So we have now used that information, which is the crawl. We have to give every single year, we already give it. So we're going to use that instead of the diagnostic scores that we have. Okay. The writing diagnostics, we actually completed those already because that is a requirement of actually another law. But I figured while we were testing everybody, let's get it done and, start in one. The first grade the kindergarten and first grade writing diagnostic assessment, we gave it, but we're going to come back to it because the kids have not had good enough instruction or enough instruction on how to write a proper sentence. So we'll come back to it. But the writing part, you can do any time during the school year. Only the reading had to be given by September 30th. Okay, all right, we talked about this. All the students in grade 3, if your student was in grade 3, they received a letter on the Friday before we took the first OA reading test, which was Tuesday, I want to say the 5th of October, something like that. Okay, so that talked about the test in general and what it's like, and then it also talked about the reading guarantee with the cut score of 390. So every third grade parent received that letter. Again, every parent has already received the assessments, their child's results, and any student who is not on track, they have already received that letter too. So that's where we're at. Okay, so this was the first letter. I just put these up here because, Andy, if you're putting this online, then parents can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what letter she's talking about then. So this was the letter I sent to all third grade parents. It's long and lengthy. And like I said, I talked about everything. I'm not going to read it to. All right. So what do we have next to do? We need to call all of those parents in that were considered not on track and start writing these plans and start implementing tutoring services and other things with those students.
Each one individually?
Yes, each one individually. You heard that correctly. All right, so this was the letter I sent for everyone who was not on track, because this is a required letter, and there are specific things in it that we had to have, and these all have to be on file. So,
Do you know about how many?
I'm getting to that.
Oh.
Yeah, I do. Okay, this is an example of the reading improvement and monitoring plan. This actually has all the programs that are research-based that we are currently using in the district. Okay, so I put this up here too. We will use this plan here in conjunction with our next one, which is, this is our regular IAT forms that we use for every child. So each child who is not on track will have both of these forms. Okay. All right, so here's your question, Lisa, answered. Students who were considered not on track. In kindergarten, we had 14. In first grade, we had 2. In second grade, we had 2. And in third grade, we had 6. Okay. Like I said, there were 2 levels. The next level is considered on track, but you need to maybe watch them and provide them services. So you can see our scores we have many more kids in that level.
But those you don't have to call in at this point.
That is correct. Yes, they can just go through like our typical Title I services and go through services with a regular education teacher.
Is that in that letter?
Yes.
Okay.
I do not have to call them in to have an individual meeting with every parent and write a plan.
Does the 29 include the 14 or?
No, those are 29 extra.
43, okay.
Yeah. So that kindergarten class, which is like 80-some kids, so you're talking 30 and 20 there, so 50 of the 80-some kids really are not where they should be at for kindergarten. But that also goes to prove how good our kindergarten program is, because if you go down to first grade, look at the difference. So they really, they know what they're doing down there in kindergarten. So kudos to my kindergarten teachers. So, anyways, onward. Okay, so we talked about research strategies that we use in the classroom, research strategies that we use in all of our support systems, which would be special education, Title I, and any other tutoring services that we get. We also have monitoring programs that we use for reading, mostly reading fluency and reading comprehension, which we were required to do anyways before this ninth mandate. Let's see. We are going to continue to use the STAR reading assessment, like we have just purchased this school year, and this one is continue to track goals and progress with the accelerated reader programs. And that's our other program that we use. That's mostly works, you read so many books, you get so many points towards your goal, whatever it may be, and then you win either some type of prize or certificate or whatever we're using in the classroom. Okay, so those are all things that we do here. And then we have other assessments that we use that we do not have to send back to ODE, but these are just regular good teaching best practices assessments, such as running records, fluency, our reading probes that we use with the kids, pre and post testings, monitor student progress. It's just typical teaching. Okay. All right, so the other part of this mandate is having parent involvement in this. Okay, so the first thing is that all of those students who are considered not on track, you have to invite those parents in. That is a requirement of the law. The next thing is that you need to have some type of a opportunity for parents to be more involved than just the reading and monitoring plan. So we are going to schedule a literacy night, which I have talked to a few of my staff members about, especially Title I teachers already. We're kind of thinking that we'll do some basic things of what you can do to help your student at home with reading, activities, games, and things like that, where to find information, like games that are online and certain things like that to help students at home and parents. And then the other one, I did this, I don't think it was last year or the year before, we did an OA parent night, and since everything is kind of riding on this third grade and what kind of score that you get and everything, we're going to have another parent night. So we can talk about what the questions look like, what's the best way to answer these types of questions, give parents a little bit more information on, how to work with your child. Okay, I believe that is it. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big mandate.
How did the staff do with all the testing and that? How did that go?
It was a strain. It was a very difficult strain. They did very well with it, but that's not, we were not expecting to do that right away like that. So.
No, and then they threw it.
Yeah, because we actually do other testing that we've always done before, but this is something that we had to do. We've always given this test. We usually give it later in the year in the spring, but now we're required to give it in the fall.
The big question is, when do they have time to teach with all this other stuff that we have to do?
Well, the concept behind
That's what I'd like to know.
I mean, think about it. The concept is, okay, you have your children, they come in, we assess you to see exactly where you're at. We provide an intervention and instruction based upon your skills.
Right.
And the concept's great.
It is.
It's not that. It's just all the other stuff that goes into this, which really,
And because of the way the system's set up with our levy system, most of the schools in Ohio are going to state minimums. So you have less and less teachers.
That's correct. It makes it very difficult, especially when you're doing this. We actually, I talked to Andy and we provided subs to come in to cover the classroom while the teacher gave the test and also to grade the test, because it does take time to do both. And, thankfully Andy suggested that. So.
This has been, the ODE is the one that has to oversee this, but ODE has to hand it to them from the Senate and the House. I mean, that's, and the governor is where all of this came from. It's kind of modeled after something that Jim Bush did in Florida. Jim Bush has this big nonprofit agency now for education and is pushing a lot of things like this across the United States. They seem to be gaining traction. This is a huge time commitment and expense for us. We had substitutes so that we could get the stuff done within the time frames that we're using. We have testing programs that we're purchasing.
That we weren't allowed to use because they were purchased with Title I money.
With federal funds. And
Yes.
Private schools have to do this as well.
So and it goes on and on. And they're putting out, the ODE's putting out an initial round of interpretations of what the law actually means. Our guess is that before the spring comes around, a lot of those will be changed because some of the ways we're interpreting things aren't the way that anybody else you hear talk about it is. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion with those. And, those are the.
And this is an Ohio thing, not a federal.
This is Ohio.
This is a huge unfunded mandate.
It is.
They should spend this much time trying to figure out how to fund the schools.
Well, they did put in a, I don't know, what, $13 million grant supposedly
Yeah,
that's
they
going to
haven't
come
released
around
the
in
details of
December,
it yet.
but we haven't heard anything yet that you can actually, we don't know what we can buy with it. We don't know if we can buy tutoring services or supplies or research-based programs. What do we see?
And that's another component of it, it's not for this immediate year, but starting 13, 14, one of the services that we have to offer, I think it's to students who have been retained, is supplemental education services from an outside provider. And the ODE is saying right now that that cost has to be taken care of by the district. So there's, you know, and it goes on and on. So, you know, I appreciate Tracy taking the time to go through this. Like she mentioned, and you're aware, last month when we had those policy revisions, a number of policies that were revised dealt directly with this third grade guarantee. So,
My question is, the parents have the right to refuse, and we go through all this, Tracy, you know, and we recommend, and even with law, supposedly they have to be retained. Can the parents still refuse, because there have been cases when teachers, you know, before we've had all this, we've recommended for retention, and parents have flat out refused and said no. What is the law on that?
The law is what I put up there. There is no refusal. I mean, we have something in our board policy saying that they
Starting
can,
next year.
appeal to the superintendent, but that you have to follow the law, which is what was listed.
That won't be tested in court.
I can't either. Yeah, and that's the reason why we say that, you know, we think things will change,
it used to
so.
be the same with that
Fourth grade guarantee.
Because I was principal of a Catholic school at that time, and we used to get an influx of people that wanted to register in fourth grade.
And then they
were being
changed that.
retained to leave the city.
There was a lot of loopholes on that one, though. This one doesn't have as many loopholes.
Rick?
Couple questions. All right, you already said it wasn't mandated any kind of money. Now, I think a couple administrations back from the federal government came back, no child left behind. Is this similar to that?
This is something completely
Okay,
different.
the basic of all education learning made, I went to Catholic school, it was reading. And back then, we used to have 50, 60 kids in class. Absolutely no help if you were a slow learner or didn't get help at home. Do you think this will solve it? I can't believe who keeps all these records.
Actually, I do.
That's what I was gonna say, it has to be a paperwork
Yeah, it is.
nightmare.
It is.
I mean, even with the computer, it still has to be,
It's,
who's, okay, I'm taking math, third grade math, or third grade reading, and fourth grade math, and third grade, I mean, oh my
When are you
goodness.
gonna find the time for a 90-minute block of reading?
Yeah,
That's what I was.
that's right.
Well,
That's
there was
something we'll have to
there
look
was
at for
an
next year.
interpretation that
There
Tracy
was.
just got the other
Yeah.
day from the ODE saying that the 90 minutes is, if I read it right,
That's
said
correct,
it's
you
the
did.
actual amount of time that the kid is reading during the day, not including instruction. Tracy listed on there what the law said. The law said it's 90 minutes of instruction. So there's one example of somebody at ODE interpreting something.
We're gonna have to go to like 10-hour days.
Yeah.
Right, that's good.
And
And we're doing this with cutting teachers.
Right.
I have 3 at third grade level.
Exactly.
We have, you know, through no fault, I mean, that's what we have to do, but we have 30 children in a classroom.
Did this come down
It's
from
mind-boggling.
the governor? I think I heard a lot about this. Did it come from the governor's office?
yes,
Yes.
Well, you could look at almost every school where the kids aren't passing these tests. It has to go back to the number one thing, these kids are being passed on. And the fundamental of education, if they can't read, they can't do anything. You know, in a way, I think it's good, but the overabundance of work put on the teachers and administration and no money to do it with, well, they're not enough. What do you do, 185 days a year, and you gotta, it's like tomorrow, they're off tomorrow.
it's,
Unbelievable.
they say that it was pushed out of the governor's office. I've heard ODE representatives talk numerous times about they didn't really have a say in it. I've also read that Stan Hefner, who just left the state superintendent, actually played a pretty crucial part in working on this with the governor. So I don't know where the truth is. I think it's true that it's a governor-pushed initiative. But what role ODE played in it, I don't know.
Okay, we go back to the question, what did the requirements for the school, no child left behind? What did they have to meet as a school system?
Now, those are numerous.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to sit down with you someday where you have about 3 hours.
Is it worse than, do we still go under no child?
Yes.
Plus all this extra.
Well, we've had the headaches this year with No Child Left Behind. We've talked here over the summer about this 20% redirect. And, you know, we seem to be, what's frustrating about all of it to me is that the more help that we need as we lose people and lose money, the more, and you'll see this here in a few minutes, you know, and I don't believe it's through any fault of anybody that's working here. Our people are working, I think, harder than ever to try to keep up with all of this stuff. But we're starting to take steps behind because we don't have the personnel that we used to be able to work with the kids. And then if that happens, because of these things and No Child Left Behind, we start to get penalized for different things, and they make us withhold money for a specific purpose, which isn't really truly where we need it. They made us withhold 20% of our special ed funds this year because of an issue in special ed. So you're supposed to use that withheld money to the area you need it, but because of the way that the law is written, you can use it in the area that it was withheld for, except for special ed. So they're taking 20% of our special ed money and making us use it in a non-special ed purpose to try to prevent future special ed.
You mentioned one thing, that these teachers have to go back and get more training. But you said something about a special teacher. Somebody brought that up. What is the definition of a special teacher?
Well, if a teacher goes through college and they're undergraduate, and they take classes, which is usually like 3 to 15 hours, depending upon what school you're at, to get a reading endorsement that you were trained on how to diagnostically assess reading and how to teach reading skills, whether it be blind, sample language, all of those things combined together to get a reading endorsement. Like I said, most of the new kids coming out, they mostly have this because it's really part of a K-3 type thing. But many of our teachers are not K-3 certified, they are like K-8 certified like I am. I did not have a reading endorsement because that wasn't something that was really offered at that time. So since there are so many teachers that do not have that, the state's going to come up with this test and say, okay, well, if you pass this test, now you're going to be considered reading endorsed. So we'll see this.
Currently, there's a test that you take once you complete all the coursework to get reading endorsed, but you're not allowed to take that test unless you've completed the coursework through a university. And there's no clear distinction on what the coursework is because ODE tells you to go back to the university that you're going to find out what they require to get to the point where you can take the test. So now this new thing may not require any coursework, and it may, we don't know. It's just going to be some other alternative to get this reading. We have hands over here. Sorry, Jim.
In a nutshell, how would you portray this to the community as a percent, like increase in cost or strain on the teachers? Maybe in line with the levy, what I'm saying is, they're not, we're hearing this, but the community doesn't hear this. How do we get that out there that there's these additional, quote-unquote, state mandates that are maybe behind the scenes cost us an additional, 20% or whatever, that is really could hinder us if things don't continue to move forward?
Well, whenever Jared's Law came out, and it was unfunded state mandate, we could actually put numbers on it because, yeah.
It was over 30,000.
It was over $30,000. And then after 2 years, they said, oh, never mind, we're not doing that anymore. So we spent $30,000 in, no one helped us, but we had to do it, and then they repealed it. So it's almost like you could make a list of all there's several unfunded mandates. And I don't know, is there a list out there, or is it something we would just?
There's been so many over the last
That's what I mean, there's been so many.
that it's hard to look back and cite any specific ones because they come about and you just end up paying for them and
Right.
they just become standard stuff. So
Or like
Like, so
whenever.
we'd have to go back and look at a list, to go back and name specific ones is kind of hard, because after a while, you just have to do it.
You have to
know?
do it.
You kind of forget that it wasn't an unfunded mandate to begin with.
Right, like when the state decided that if you are on free and reduced lunches, you don't have to pay your school fees now. Well, that year, I think it was like $16,000 it hit us for. But now, we don't even figure it anymore because we have no, there's really no way to figure it because we haven't had that for two years? 2 years. But that year, we knew because we knew how much we got cut. We got cut $16,000 that year. So you can assume it's about the same every year, but it might be different. But it's really hard to put a number on that because, but I mean, you could come up with a list of unfunded and explain what an unfunded mandate is, and then say this, and now we're going to get hit with this.
Is there a way to incorporate this into,
You think there's a way to put a number on
I
it?
mean, this is huge. I mean, if people don't understand, this is probably just one item out of, I don't know, that's coming up that the school district has no option.
Right.
Zilch, none.
Right, and when they say we overspend, we don't overspend. We get cut and we get this kind of stuff that we never had before, and now all of a sudden, okay, they can say, oh, we were, we got cut and we've dealt with it. Well, we don't have a choice. We have to operate in the black. So we have to cut to be able to pay for this kind of stuff. So you're cutting and then you don't have the teachers.
Well, the stress level on the teachers.
Okay,
In
that
regards
too.
to, everyone wants to do the best they possibly can for all of these children. And what is being placed on them now, I don't know how they factor that number. I really don't. In the fact that most of the grades are at 3 teachers per grade level, 30 plus students. You know, the 4th grade classrooms are 31, 30. And what she was saying, although they may have to still be taking 3rd grade reading, the 4th grade teachers are still going to have to pick up all of the other subject content area. I don't know how this will really work. Yeah, I don't know how. We'll make it work, we always do, but.
You're going to have to hire additional staff. I mean, really, you're going to have to hire probably
That was my first
between-
thought whenever
Yeah.
we were looking at that.
Yeah. when
We
all
have to hire 2 to 4
all we
people.
do is cut staff. How do we get to hire staff?
And that's hire
Right.
2 and 4 equivalent of full-time people.
And
And
they talk about having, like, you can have like a transitional grade level, and that's what this is gonna end up being. You're gonna have that transitional grade level where kids are being taught 3rd grade reading, but 4th grade, subject areas and everything else, and science, social studies, and math, because they can continue with that. So I don't know where we're gonna head with this, whether they're gonna change the law by then, but, that is what's written on the books right now.
Well, and also another thing that doesn't even factor into any of this stuff is the fact that the emotional part of these kids to say, well, yeah, I didn't pass in this, but I passed in this, so I gotta I mean, it's just so much on kids nowadays. They don't need one more thing, and I mean that's one more thing that distracts them from learning. So they're just making it's crazy. It's
The bottom line is it's something that's out of the school district's control.
it is,
That's the point.
and it doesn't make sense. Frankly, it doesn't make sense.
I have no right.
And
No, we don't. We have no control over
the
it.
costs are high monetarily and on these people right here. The costs
And
are
when
high.
this and when the state representatives come in, they basically say, "Don't look for us to help you out. We're just trying to win another election, so we're not going to
Or
help
I'm
you."
going to be in my office for 6 months and then I'm going to become a judge.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to do
No,
anything.
don't ask me to
6
do
months I
anything,
know.
and don't ask me to be accountable for anything. You guys have to do it, and the teachers have to do it, and the administration has to do it. They just, it's like we exist here in this black hole of Waterloo, and they don't.
So if a question like this would pop up on the 22nd, would be something you would answer, maybe short term, like summary without.
Well, and it's also going to be on the website, right? So we can direct them to that and show them this is what's required, so we can do that
On
too.
my website, because we don't need to line it, there's a full page,
Have we ever made, just a thought, because we always say the website, and there's people out there that don't have computers. Is there any way we can make a time where someone, I know the library has computers, a time where someone could come in and use, like someone who doesn't have access to a computer, a parent or a grandparent that doesn't have that access, is there any way we could have them come? I know you'd have to have it supervised, but is there any way we have, like, a time where they could do something like that? I mean, maybe not, but because there are people out there that do not have access to computers, so. And if we're gonna be using that as one of our resources, maybe we could have it some way that they could get at it. I don't know that they would even use it, but it's a thought.
I have a question real quick, sorry. I think it was discussed about like the kids, I guess the kids who struggling, they don't score the 393, whatever, and they might need that 90 minutes. I'm curious, college education majors, they do student teaching. Would they qualify as being tutors, or this additional help would be, or does the school, does the district have to, do they pay for student teachers to come in?
The district does not pay for student teachers to come in. We have a number of student teachers here. I don't know why a student teacher couldn't help, but according to the rules, they have to be the person overseeing it that meets those criteria.
A student teacher could maybe fill in while that certified teacher is.
They wouldn't be considered that high performance or whatever, then, would they?
Well, I mean, they could fill in maybe, I don't know.
We can't have the Corvair, we gotta have the Mustang.
They have to provide daily tutor.
Wait a minute, which one?
The Mustang's a high performance.
Okay. I thought a Corvair was a pretty cool car.
You're just
So.
gonna go with your muscle car. That's
I was lost on that one.
Sean had something.
Mr. Irving, what are you doing to communicate under third grade? How much of this information is getting pushed to preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade?
There's a mention in it in my first newsletter school year. It is on my webpage. I did want to put a lot of stress onto it because it is really, there are some things that have to do with kindergarten, first grade and second grade. The majority of it has to do with third grade, those were the major rules apply.
Right.
So I've really been hitting hard to third graders more than I have K1 and 2.
Right.
But like I said, anyone who's considered not on track has already received that letter with all the situations that are listed. So
Are the upcoming meetings that you mentioned going to involve all of those grades, or can they?
they have to.
They do, so it's going to be
Any child.
grade.
Right, any child who's not on track.
Okay, so even, so for me, I've got a preschooler who, I watched Rich, he went through Title I for 2 years, but scored great on his diagnostics this year, came out of Title I and doing great. So there's huge kudos to our staff here, but what do I do as that first-time parent? Let me go back to that. My first-time parent, working parents, and sending my kid to kindergarten, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I think
So how do we get them on track?
So those numbers we saw for kindergarten
That's right.
are better. Well, we do have quite an advantage here right now. We have
Right.
both preschools and then a ESD preschool.
Right.
And so we need to work with those preschoolers to really make sure that the administrators of those programs know what's expected of kindergartners. I do work with both, all three of the preschools actually, and we need to, really put forward some of these kind of big mandates that are in. When children sign up for kindergarten, there are many, that kindergarten package is huge, and I know that. There are a lot of good examples and games and things that we can give to parents in that packet if they take the time to read it. I have talked to Andy on several occasions about doing some type of like kinder camp before school starts, but those are some of those things that we need to start thinking about. What else can we do to help these incoming kindergartners and their parents know that these are the things that are expected of them? Because kindergarten no longer is just social interactions with, each other. It is not just learn your colors, learn your shapes. Our kids are reading by January, and if they're not reading by January, they are not on track. So.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the things that Allison is learning in preschool is blowing my mind, Steve. Stuff that Richard learns the other half of
I
kindergarten.
couldn't tie my shoes up there.
Right. That's no longer
it's not, it's no longer,
Kind of dovetailing on that, one of the things that I thought, that I saw in there was the literary night. And I always thought it would be a great idea that during the first couple weeks of school, you had a kindergarten parent night, first grade parent night, second grade parent night, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. And the idea is because we can do everything we can possibly do here, but really to be successful, you've got to get the parents involved. And there are a lot of parents that there are some parents that just are not going to be involved.
right,
But there are a lot of parents that would get involved, but maybe they don't know how.
how to get involved or what questions to ask. I remember that being that kindergarten mom with that first kid going into school, you send them off on the bus and you let the tears flow and then you see how the day went.
Right. And it's all emotional.
It's all emotional for him, for you, for everything. It's
But-
not what was I supposed to be doing
Well,
over that summer.
If you had that night for each grade, each teacher could be there, the reading, this subject could be presented. The language arts teacher could talk about language arts. The math teacher, the science teacher, each subject teacher could make a 10-minute or so presentation on things. And then you could go on and you could have some fun games and have some coffee and some tea or some whatever. And you can make it like a 2-hour deal where the first half hour or so is the teacher, the staff explaining to the parents the things that you can do to help your student be successful at this grade level. And that would be, to me, that would be the perfect point to interject some of the things that Sean mentioned.
Well, in place of our traditional open house one.
Well, you know what I think about open house. I had said I'm a big fan of getting everybody in that gymnasium and introducing the staff and the whole bit, but as opposed to the way we've done it the last 5 or 6 years where there's no big gathering. But yeah, something like that would be just fine. Maybe you make that, maybe you don't have the one big open house. You have a great breakout. You do it one per week, so it's not a crazy burden on anybody.
Well, and another thing that my niece's school does, they do a meet the teacher night. Now, it would take a little more because they have to know, but they do it before they leave school in May. They come in, and by doing that, you do get the parents in there. Because the parents, let's face it, open house, the parents come. They might not come if you have a meeting for first graders, but if you're having a meet the teacher night and they come in, and it doesn't have to be their specific teacher, but you could meet all the first grade teachers. So all the kindergarten kids, before they leave school in May, they come in, they meet all the first grade, these could be your teachers, this is what you need to work on over the summer. And we've done that before. We've done that where we've done worksheets, because I know when Adam was in elementary school, we would have his worksheets, and every summer we'd be working on them to make sure he was on track. And we did do, it's been a long time ago. I think it was at the old primary school. But it was something that I think you get more people there if you're saying, okay, this is what you guys are going to need for the next school year. Instead of, an open house, I agree, it could be different. But if you do it in the spring, and you're saying this is for next year, and it kind of gives them something, they're nosy. Okay, if they're nosy and they want to know what's going on, they're going to come. I think that might be another option too, is to do something in the spring, because a lot of times in the spring, the kids are sick of learning by then anyway. So, and the parents, are thinking, oh my gosh, I got them all summer, what am I going to do with them all summer? So here we go, here's an idea of what to work on.
It's just important that they know the little trick, the things that are important to each grade level. They need to know that when you get in and you're starting third or fourth or second or whatever grade you're in, you need to know the things that are specific to that course at that grade level.
And where they should be.
And where they should be, and the things the parents can do. Because I really think if parents knew, had a better idea, even if only 10% of the parents pick up on it and do it, that's still 10%. That's still out of 100 kids in a grade level, that's still 10 kids that are going to be more successul. And maybe the 10 kids that we need to reach the score.
Let's put one more thing on you, Tracy. But it's a thought. If we could do something like that, that might be an idea, like what Shauna was saying, to get them to know what they need to do over the summertime to get them in that point. So And really, the kindergarten ones, you could almost, well, you do, you give those out in the kindergarten packet, so that's already being done.
April, it lists
Yeah.
exactly everything you need to know in order to be successful in kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's like a list of 17 things. It is not.
It is, maybe we can come up with something that shows how that's going to help them before this first grade guarantee. You know, I know what they need to do, they need to do the X, Y, and Z, the 17 things for kindergarten. And we assume that we can all go back to when we were in those grades and what's next? What's that next step? And where's that gonna take you next? I think that's what we're maybe missing. And especially, you know, if you're a new parent to the district and have that kindergarten, you're lost. Maybe we can create amongst PTO or something, like a mentoring program for new parents, for those first timers, just to help them through those phases, especially with this stuff from the state.
Does kindergarten still include a nap time?
We have rest time, but we do not rest.
They don't rest.
God, I'm really showing. My favorite thing about kindergarten is I got chocolate milk, a couple of graham crackers, and they let us take a nap. And that was only half a day. Am I lying? Huh?
He still lives by those rules. Chocolate milk, snack, and a nap.
Honestly, I don't remember, and I can remember kindergarten better than I can last week. And, you know, I had a little towel we had to take, or blanket or whatever, and we ate, we drank, we chased kids around and played, and then I didn't learn.
It's a whole lot different. They learn a lot more now than we ever learned in
That's
kindergarten.
where I messed up, Steve, that's what I thought it was.
That's what most people think.
That's where I'm at. No.
They learn a lot. The
Maybe
kids
that's
nowadays
my
are a lot
problem
smarter.
I don't know. Well, I wasn't trying to be funny, I was very serious. I mean, I remember that stuff. And none of anything I did included reading. I think they were trying to teach us how to color in the lines and stuff. Well, that was the hardest thing I did.
Anything else for Tracy?
Thank you so much, Tracy. And God bless you all. Hopefully we can get through this. Maybe they'll repeal it. When's the new governor? We still got 2 more
He
years?
says to repeal.
Oh, never
Long
mind.
years.
We can only hope.
All right, so we have one other presentation here. Part of the agenda tonight is the revised 5-year forecast that has to be submitted to the state. I say revised, but in all actuality, this has to go twice a year, so you should just, I guess we should just call it the new 5-year forecast that needs to be submitted. But we'll want to take a look at a few things here as we go to that and eventually get to what that looks like and where we stand. I'm going to start just with a couple of years. I'm just going to look at a couple of years here to go further back, but let's just look at the last 2 where we've had to make some significant changes here in the district to keep ourselves afloat financially. So the 10-11 year, we were excellent with distinction. We had almost 1,250 students. Last year, we dropped down a notch. We went to excellent. We had 1,272 students, which you'll see in our forecast actually helped us a little bit from where we thought we were going to be last May. We talked about this before at the board meeting. These were the proposed state report card system and how Waterloo compared very favorably compared to the other districts here in Portage County, something that we were very proud of. And then just to take you on a nasty trip on memory lane, I guess I would say, over the last 2 years, we've done a number of things because of our financial situation. Things that did not necessarily impact the classroom. We combined bus runs, went from 2 to 1. We eliminated storage unit. We had down Alliance, wireless cards, district cell phones, reallocated building budgets, which actually did affect things in the classroom because that's money that's no longer going there. We installed these kill switches outside on 18 of the 36 parking lot light posts. reduced our number of days of garbage pickup. In the personnel area, we went from a full-time treasurer assistant to a part-time. We had 2 administrative positions that were both full-time: supervisor of transportation, building and grounds, and supervisor of the cafeteria. Over the course of time here, we've combined that into one full-time position now that includes cafeteria and transportation. The classroom side, okay, there's been a lot of impact that's happened over the last 2 years. We've eliminated the 2 deans of students, the high school and the middle school, the high school media specialist, for all intents and purposes. I think she's down here 1 hour a day. Middle school computer study skills, high school consumer science, our gifted coordinator and teacher, middle school social studies position, elementary core teacher position. There's been a couple other positions through attrition that we have not filled in both the middle school and the elementary school. The elementary, middle school, we've eliminated one of the media center aides. We've taken one of our secretary positions at the high school that was part-time and eliminated that. And then a cafeteria aide position, and a number of supplemental positions: high school yearbook, middle school and high school audio visual, high school newspaper, high school literary magazine, middle school newspaper, chess club, middle school student council, after school detention, one of the 2 that we had, and some coaching positions, assistant at the football and assistant on the boys basketball. So our impact of what we've done to cut to stay afloat is, while we've tried to keep it away from affecting kids, it's had some pretty significant impact, as we were well aware as we did this. We had many discussions about this. Who have we lost? We've lost a lot of good people here over the last couple of years. There's many more that could be on this list that retired, those type of things. What this list is are people who either chose to leave the district and expressed to me their concern about their future here because of our financial situation, or they're people that had their job reduced that would prefer to still be here but are sitting on a recall list. So you can see on this list, we have a number of good teachers and other support personnel that are here, that used to be here working with our kids. What have our employees done during that time? So we've done a lot of elimination. Our employees have stepped up, and they've taken a base freeze for employees over the last 3 years for all employees besides the OPSI union. It's the 2nd year for OPSI. A step freeze for all employees. This is the second year of the step freeze. And then we did a major insurance plan change about 1.5 years ago on deductibles and prescription costs. So all of that, those concessions or contributions, whatever you want to call it, that the employees have helped us out with, those have added up to over $500,000 that they've saved the district just during this one period of time. If we go back even further, Todd has a little slide that he's put together over time. And for example, our certified staff, I think 4 out of the last 5 times they've negotiated, they've done some type of a change with the insurance plan, something that's been beneficial to the district, not to them. Our non-certified, the last 3 times that they've negotiated, the same deal. They've decided to help out the district because of the situation that we're in. So our employees have stepped up to the plate and really helped out significantly with where we're at. We've also tried to find new revenue sources. Okay, we started in November 2010, pay to participate fees. As we're all aware, we've tripled those for this current school year. We started last school year leasing space in our building to the county for preschool. We continue that this year. New this year, we're leasing space to the Portage Learning Center. They have a number of educational programs here. I think they run a Head Start program that's all day. I think that one runs like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have a preschool, full-day program, a half-day program. They have before and after school care here. We've created the Viking Digital Academy. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And we've started applying for Medicaid reimbursement for certain special ed services that we're able to get money for. And I don't recall exactly the dollar amount that brought in last year, but I think it was somewhere around the $30,000, $40,000 range. So we've been trying to go after additional revenue sources to help offset this deficit too, and not just make it all cutting or contributions from our employees. While all this has been happening, we've also been doing our best to try to find creative ways to continue to further what's happening here in the classroom for students. And I think probably the most prominent example of that with what we've been able to turn around and offer, which was a concern for many community residents, was the rigor of coursework at the high school and being able to add some AP classes and dual credit classes. So currently we now have 2 AP classes. We have an art class and we have calculus. We have 4 dual credit classes. That calculus class is also taught dual credit through Youngstown State. We have a French class through Youngstown State. We have a computer class through Stark State. And we have a music class through Kent State University. He's been approved at both campuses. I think the one he's teaching this year is through the Stark campus. Those courses, those students are able to take the class here and receive college credit while they receive high school credit. And the good news about these classes is we've been able to do this at a time where we don't have money, but in a way that's added very little expense for the district. These have kind of meshed into what's already been going on. We've had teachers that have gone above and beyond to jump through the hoops to be able to get certified or whatever they needed to do to be able to teach these classes. So enrollment for this current year, part of what you have in front of you is an enrollment summary that I shared with you a few weeks ago. I have updated a couple things because our enrollment here changes daily with different things, especially at the beginning of the year as districts are sorting through open enrollment and everything. The state doesn't have the system up and running yet where you can get easy reports through EMIS yet. So currently, and I included some of these over by the door. If you didn't pick one up, you can go over there and get one so you can kind of see some more details on this. But currently, as a school district, we have 1174 is the number of students that we have on our campus or part of our digital academy. We have another 40 students, roughly, preschool's included in that 40 because technically they're not included in who's on our campus. We don't get the same amount of funding for those kids, but we consider them district placed out because they're in a county unit, even though the county unit's here. But we have another 40 students that we place out of the district in one way, shape, or form because there's programs that they require that we just are not able to offer here. Those are special ed related services. We have 43 students who could be at Waterloo and have chosen to be in a community school, more commonly known as a charter. Of those, 29 are in online academies. We have 71 students who are homeschooled. And then between open enrollment in and out, we have a net loss of 38. Okay, I think actually when you look at our open enrollment numbers over the last, compared to the last few years, we actually may have the highest numbers we've had for an open enrollment in, but they're also the highest we've had for open enrollment out. So our net is actually a little less than it's been the last 2 years. I think 2 years ago we lost 40. Last year it was 41. This year it's 38. Okay, shift focus here for a moment. The state, we've talked last month on how the state had kind of put an embargo on the report card data from this past school year because of the scrubbing scandal with data that the auditor at the state's investigating. Maybe 3 weeks ago or so, they released some preliminary information that did not include a rating or the PI score and a couple other components. They released something, I think it was on Wednesday, Michael Sawyers, the acting state superintendent, said that the Board of Education for the state had decided next week that they're going to release the rest of the data, but it's still going to be termed preliminary because the state auditor is still completing his investigation. But the only way that, my understanding is the only way that a district's rating will change is if they are found to have done something illegal, and then they'll be adjusted downward. So we were able to get in yesterday and take a look at our secure data center that had been closed because of all this scandal across the state and see where we stand. And so as a district here, okay, we are going to be dropping down to a rating of effective. Okay, so 2 years ago we were at excellent with distinction, last year excellent, this year effective. And like I mentioned before, I do not believe that that's because of a lack of effort. I think we have people here that are working harder than ever to get things done. We just don't have as much support as we used to be able to help kids. And you heard Thora and others talk about the large number of students in a classroom, the less number of people we have being able to work with students. And when you have a large percentage of students who are struggling, those things become a very big factor. AYP, adequate yearly progress, we did not meet as a district. And we did not meet it because to make AYP, you have to make all of your subgroups. For Waterloo, we have all students, we have economically disadvantaged students in a subgroup, and then we have special ed students in a subgroup. And so we did not make reading within our special education subgroup. Those are the kids that need the additional support. That's where I talked about earlier. We've had 20% of our funding for special ed federally pulled away and said you can't use it on special ed. You know, we have less people to provide the support to those kids. You have all this other stuff with third grade guarantee going on that pulls resources too. And so that's where we are as a district. This is what we can expect to be released next week. As far as our other buildings go, both the elementary school and the middle school will be rated effective, and our high school will remain at excellent. Okay, so, you know, as always, as we've always noted, even when we were excellent with distinction, no matter how good you are, there's always things you can do to improve. And, you know, and no one's happy that we're taking a step backward here. But I assure you that everybody that's here is doing their best and working as hard as they can to try to figure out how to work around the challenges that have been placed in front of us so that we can make the impact that we want on these students. Enrollment opportunities. I think we do have some of these, and I'm looking and exploring some ways that I may bring back to you and that we can kind of more aggressively go after these students. In particular, these students that we have that could be here that are in an online community school, digital academy. Okay, we believe that what we have to offer here with this Viking Digital Academy is something that should be very attractive to those students. Not only can they take their schooling in the setting they're doing now, they can do it through Waterloo, get a Waterloo diploma, and be part of extracurricular activities here at Waterloo, which are things that those other places cannot offer. Graduating from Waterloo puts you into what they call Tier 1 high school diploma. Graduating from a place like TRACA or K-12 online gives you something that they call a Tier 2 diploma. And places like the military, they have limited number of people that they actually take into each year that have Tier 2 diplomas. And was there a question out here? Homeschool students, I think we have a very good opportunity with those students, especially as they get older, to possibly have them at least part-time enrolled in their digital academy if they don't want to be here at school, because as the content gets harder, it gets harder and harder to teach at home. So I'm told by people that are actively involved in that. So I think it's a good opportunity there. And then, the open enrollment, we've talked about before. That's probably the one that I'm least optimistic of because the reasons that people open enroll are just so fast. A lot of it has to do with convenience and other things. So,
The homeschool too, is a real wide range of reasons.
it is.
It's kind of, doesn't always make, I think it's a button. Each person has a different button that was pushed. For some reason, they then decide to go home rule or open, or go over to another district. And whatever that driving force was, is different.
Sure.
It's hard to find the key there.
Yeah, that's very true. And so we're looking at, I think if we were to do some aggressive marketing to some of these students, we may be able to bring some of them back here. And to do that, that may cost a little bit of money. But I'll tell you, if we bring back one student, it would probably well pay for what it would potentially cost to do that. So looking into some different things, I'm not talking about getting crazy here and spending tens of thousands of dollars on a marketing effort. I'm just trying to find ways that we can maybe step up what we've tried to do, because while it's been maybe a little bit successful, I still think that there's a very large possibility that it can be more successful than that. And, and with our digital academy, there's so many possibilities. We have the opportunity for students to use it that are here for credit recovery, for summer school option, for credit flexibility. And we've had students that have opted, I think, in each of those categories to do that. And so it's something that I think will continue to grow for us over time. So where are we at financially? The top here, this is May's forecast, the last one that was submitted to the state, just as a point of comparison. But you have to be careful here, because when we did this, it was actually fiscal year 11 where it started up to 16. Now on the bottom, the one that we're putting forth to you tonight, recommending to send to the state, starts with fiscal year 12. So if you're comparing these, you really want to look this way each time. But you'll see here that we're better off than we were in May. And after Todd was able to close out the end of the year expenses here, we can see that overall, bottom line, we are about $529,000 better than we thought we would be. That is because combination of a couple different things here, just large generalities. Purchase services, we were $180,000 less than expected. That included supplies, salaries, benefit, those type of things. With revenue, our state foundation payments were about $213,000 more than we anticipated. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you saw our enrollment had jumped last year, and that we are no longer on the state guarantee. So as our enrollment fluctuates, so does the foundation payment amounts that we're going to be receiving. So what we've done here in this forecast is we've gone in, and the state has a tool that can be used that acts as a, basically it's got formulas plugged in, and you go in and manipulate different numbers based off of where your enrollment is. So our enrollment's down from where we were last year. We went in and put those numbers in, did what we needed to do to be able to see where our numbers would be to plug in here for state foundation. So we believe, based off of the guidance from ODE and using the tool that they gave us, that this October forecast builds in a very accurate amount on how much we should expect to receive from the state in state foundation payment, while at the same time we understand that we're about 50 students. We'd have to lose another 50 students before we ended up on the state guarantee where you wouldn't lose any more money if a student left. So we don't, I would sure hope that we don't get to that point. So every student that we have that comes in or out is going to have some type of an impact on our overall financial picture. So this is our most accurate estimate that we can give off of the best knowledge that we have. But you'll see here, okay, that we, as it currently stands, okay, we will be able to get through fiscal year 14 without having to make additional cuts. As we get into this November levy request, the one that's on the ballot here for November 6th, the 5 mills for 5 years, the emergency levy, if we're successful, we will be able to get through fiscal year 17, okay, which is the length of the forecast we're submitting, in the black, okay, which would be nice. But I want to caution you here. We've seen where we've done all of these cuts, we've taken steps back, and what we're doing here is keeping things status quo. We're not building in money to hire a number of things back or anything like that. We're trying to stop the bleeding here. You know, we're trying to continue to figure out ways that we can be more effective with what we do with less. Okay, but this district is on a very dangerous brink of falling off the end if we have to continue to cut to these state minimums. And we all know from our other discussions we've had numerous times, we're very close to the state minimums. And you know, I don't live here. I'm an outsider from the standpoint of where I live. But I will tell you, I have never talked to one person in this community who I would categorize as saying, let's have a state minimum school district. People seem to take a great deal of pride in Waterloo, in this building and what happens here. And my fear for the community is, by the time they realize what's happening here, it's going to be so late that once a levy finally does pass, and we've talked before, the history shows across this state, regardless of how many years and how big it eventually gets, they always pass. By the time something does pass, my fear is that it's going to be so detrimental to the school district and these students, what's happened, that it's then going to take a number of years to build back up. And this community has a great thing going for it and really needs to step forward here in November to stop further bleeding. That being said, we need to have a conversation about February, because if we are not successful in November, if we want to be on February 5th, which is the next election available, we have to have 2 resolutions passed by you. Have the first one go through the county auditor's office for verification, and then the second one passed and into the Board of Elections by the day after the November 6th election. So we don't have time to wait and see what happens on November 6th to make a decision about February. The state doesn't give us that luxury. So in talking things over, Todd and I believe that we should not pass on an opportunity to be on the ballot. We feel that our situation is too dire to do that. And we feel that not continuing to be on the ballot just sends the wrong message about whether or not this is actually needed. And I think with what we've seen here, there's no doubt that we need this. And so our recommendation to you would be tonight that you consider passing a resolution to put an equivalent millage amount on for 5 years, for a 5-year emergency levy again. And when we look at that, what's the equivalent amount? We're losing a calendar year of collection if we don't pass in November. We think 5.9 mils is the number that would be somewhat equivalent. We can't say that for sure because we don't know yet. That property valuations are changing. We've talked, Todd and I have talked to the auditor's office. They tell us that the value per mil dollar amount is probably going to be less, but they can't say for sure how less. So, you know, if we back up here for a moment, fiscal year 17. If we pass in November, we're a little less than 700,000 in the positive at the end of fiscal year 17 before we run into trouble in fiscal year 18. 5.9 probably puts us, if it's on a lower number, will probably put us somewhere around 400,000 roughly in fiscal year 17 to the positive. So it's pretty comparable. So we feel pretty comfortable recommending to you 5.9. But that being said, when you do an emergency levy, you don't speak in the terms of mills with the resolutions. You speak in the amount of money that it generates a year. So what we would recommend is that you pass a resolution that's 5 years in length, emergency, to avoid an operating deficit in the amount of $939,557 each year. That's the amount that's the equivalent of 5.9 mils. And again, the reason that that needs to be higher is because we've now, if we don't pass in November, we've now lost a calendar year of collections. So it's going to take a higher amount of money to get us out a similar period of time.
And just so I'm clear from the levy that's coming in November is a 5-year emergency levy, and this one would be a 5-year emergency levy.
Correct. This would be, yes, all we're doing, we're keeping what the request is the same. The only thing that changes is the amount of money requested because we've lost a year. So that's kind of a picture of where we're at, and I don't mean to make it gloom and doom. It's the reality of the situation that we're in, and no one here wants to see us continue to fall backwards. Not when you have so many good things that are happening here and so much that's at stake. Any questions? Any discussion on February?
Do you need a motion?
What we'd like to do, go ahead.
Well, so we're still going to have another meeting.
We're going to have to set it, if you decide to do this, what we would do two things. One, we would add on a resolution onto the consent agenda tonight. We'll just add it on at the end of the addendum items and letter it. And then two, we will need to set a special board meeting some point at the end of this month to give us time to be able to then get the second resolution into the Board of Elections by November 7th. So that'll be something that we'll have to do tonight, is set that meeting date.
Okay.
Todd, anything you want to add? Okay.
Does anybody else have anything?
Okay.
Do we need to pick a date?
Yeah, we can do that.
Or do we want to, okay.
We can,
Just keep in mind, after this resolution passed, then county auditor's office needs X number of days to certify back to us how many mills that
How
will
many
take.
days do they need?
I think they get 5 days, but Mrs. Esposito has been out for a short time, and I don't know if she's back to work full time yet. But in the past, she always usually turned those around pretty quick. But I would at least allow for a week.
Well, what I was going to suggest was the 22nd. Can we just have it before the Community Action Committee?
Is everybody okay with that?
I think if that gives her time, that's fine. Because I'm looking at my schedule, and that's about the best time I can see.
So we can do that. We only need a couple minutes. So if that meeting starts at 7, if we did this one at 6:30, is that okay with everybody?
Is that, yes?
6:30.
6:30 on October 22nd in here?
Yes.
Six
6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
Anything else on anything?
That was a long superintendent's report. Thank you.
Well, you're acting like we should be surprised.
I won't.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so we need to, do we need to do that now?
No, we'll wait till we get to
Add that on?
the
Okay.
consent agenda, and then we'll add it on.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Treasurer's report,
We will have on the consent agenda, add the addendums, items H, I, J, and then we'll address K a little bit later on. On the treasurer's report, you had the 5-year forecast sent to you with the board packets last week. Just want to draw your attention to the packet laid out before you tonight. A little bit slimmed down from previous forecasts and the fact that I think you're pretty much all aware of the backup documentation that really drives the numbers. I slimmed that down a little bit. However, I added in the back that was behind the green sheet, just some management reports that aren't mandated, aren't required, but reports that Dr. Hill and I utilize throughout the year that we can look at and make future management decisions on. So again, nothing that's rocket science, but it just makes good business sense to keep track of certain items. For example, we always take a close look. Dr. Hill mentioned tonight the open enrollment. Keep an extensive tracking of that. I threw in here for you the athletic budget. Even though that's really not part of the general fund per se, just good information you can look at. We've had discussion on what some of those costs that do come out of the general fund for some of those items. Keep track of custodial history. Keeping track since 1996 to the present. Keep a pretty detailed tracking of our bus expenditures, broken down in all areas. I've given you over the last 10 years, the average annual change of our major general fund revenues and expenditures. There's a few other miscellaneous reports in there, tracking of supplies and purchase services in all categories for the general fund. So some you can look at in there. If you have any questions on any of those,
Some of this is really good information when you look at it, when you talk about being fiscally responsible. And when you look at it, you say, okay, our bus expenditures in this day and age, who would think they were reduced by 150,000 from one, custodial expenses, who would think that they would be reduced by 100,000 over previous years? I mean, you look at, there's just a lot of things here that show that there's a lot of significant changes being made.
and also look at it and see, you'll see there isn't anywhere where we're overspending or where we can cut. I mean, it's just, we're bottom.
they get a lot of the credit for the background staff,
Right.
certified and non-certified.
Right.
Just being cognizant of the fact that, before we do anything, we think about, how that's going to impact the financial situation of the district. And really, without them, Dr. Hill and myself couldn't possibly, look at each and every single thing that comes through that microscopic level. But it's really the credit to them that they really watch and limit what they request as far as expenditures go. Thank them for that.
Well, I think a lot of times too, I mean, we say it over and over again, that that's probably the hardest part to me of being on the board is knowing. I mean, we know because we pay attention to how hard everybody works and how much they do, and to hear people say, well, you're spending too much, or the teachers need to work harder, or someone, and you just sit there and you think, and you know what everybody's doing and what we've done to get us to this point so that we are, we're doing a good job of staying in the black above ridiculous circumstances. I mean, just what we watched tonight with Tracy. I mean, it's impossible what they put us through, not me personally, because you guys are the ones that are making it work. So, I mean, it's just, I've always said we have something special here, and I know other school districts may think the same thing, but I think we do. So I commend everybody who's done what they've done to get us this far, and boy, it would be nice to be able to say, hey, we actually have a little bit of money in the kitty, let's pass a levy, and oh my goodness, we
That's the
can
reason
actually breathe.
Those open enrollment numbers and those, the numbers that we put up there, and I see those things.
It doesn't make sense.
In my mind, I can't rationalize why those numbers are where they're at.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it, there's not that big of a difference from here to there, the surrounding districts. To make that change, I just can't see the upside there being enough upside. When you think of what we've got here and what we've done here, to actually pick your kids up and move them to a school that is not in community in which they live. I just can't.
I get it,
I'm
that's
looking
why
at
you
it
move
which
to
way
a
I can.
community.
So,
That's why you live in a community, is to send your kids to that school district. And I think even with this new rating of effective, I know my child's learning a lot more than I ever did, and clearly Steve's kids are. So, well, you only learned how to drink chocolate milk in kindergarten. Apparently, Brady learned a little more. He's at college right now. So, but I just think that, I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. If you move into a school district, you do it because of the school district mostly. But we are blessed for what we have.
I think what baffles me the most is that it's only the public schools that have to go through this.
Yeah.
That's what kills me. I keep hearing about this story, how there's certain segments of our nation that want to destroy public schools. And I mean, remember some of you younger folks won't remember this, but back when McCarthy was around and they started what was that thing, that communist agenda or something, how they're good at, yes, how all this stuff, and I'm not saying that that's it, but I mean, it almost sounds like this, because you hear these different things, how we want to segregate the teachers from high performance to this, to that, and how we want to grade them on the kids' performances and stuff like that. And, I mean, I see it all coming together, and it almost makes you believe that somebody is out to destroy the public school system.
Well,
that's just the way
it's probably been,
I'm
what,
a big
6 to 8
conspiracy
years
guy,
ago?
so I don't know.
6 to 8 years ago, Andy Herbeck said, this is what they're going to do. And it's coming true. It is coming true. He was right. I mean, at the time, he thought, there's no way. Andy Herbeck said that's whenever he would go to these meetings in Columbus, he said, this is what they're going to try to do. They're going to try and pay the teachers on how well the kids are learning. They're going to do away with public schools and go to charter schools. They're going to take away athletics in schools. They're going to, I mean, everything that, all these things that he talked about, and we thought he was crazy. They're gonna try and get it through one way or another.
And the politicians like to paint with the big brush, because the big brush is where the voters are. So they take the fact that a lot of the big city schools are underperforming terribly. And I would say that a program such as the third grade reading program is maybe needed in some of those places, because there are kids that are just getting passed along. In their education systems are not really up to par in many cases. But instead of fixing the ones that are broken, they like to throw everybody in the same barrel and apply those, treat us all as if we're not the same. And the thing that really aggravates me the most is nobody wants to admit the real reason one of the major reasons education is failing in those big cities is because family unit that's failing in the big cities, by and large. It's generality, but a lot of those problems are there. And the end result is you need, you can throw as much as you want at the teachers, at the superintendents, at the school systems and all that, but it comes back to, you've got to have, to pull it off and then really make a difference, you have to have parental involvement. We will be fine because I think we've got great kids, we've got great parents, and I think by and large, our parents will step up to the plate and do what they need to do to help our students. So, eventually we'll be fine. We're going to have to go through a lot of aches and pains, but the places that really have the issues that really need the support and really need to change don't have the basics of what they need to make the change. So, and until politicians stop worrying about getting reelected and start worrying about doing the right thing by the time they're there, or until they're working to become a judge, like our last representative, 6 months after he got in, he came in and told us he couldn't do anything for us because he wanted to get reelected. Until they change that mindset, which was just a horrible thing for the guy to say, in my opinion.
Oh.
It's horrible. But until they change that mindset, we're these hamsters on this wheel, just keep having to adjust to what they're doing.
One of the things that I've heard 100 people say, at least 100, is, back in my day, we had 35 kids in the class and we didn't have any problems. Well, I remember a lot of kids in my class, but all I ever remember is taking those dumb Iowa tests. Do they still take those?
Sorry,
They're norm-based, that's really not a bad thing.
Well, I'm just saying that, but that's the only one I remember,
Chocolate milk and Iowa.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean,
Naps.
and I went to, another school district, but I don't think that the teachers, it's not that the teachers back then didn't do their job, but I don't think that as much stuff like this was required of them back then. So, 30 kids in a class back then might have been okay, because all I remember was a big party anyway. This don't sound like no party to me.
Well, the other thing, Steve, is when you had those 35 kids in the classroom, when you acted up, as I did in first grade.
Oh, I used to get
The greatest teacher on the face of the earth, nothing against the current teacher, Mrs. Parks, my first grade teacher, she was the greatest person on the face of the earth. Tremendous person. I love her forever. But when I mess up at lunchtime and recess, guess what happens when we come back in? Out in the hall. Cut your ankles and you're going to get some slaw. That's how, I had 35 kids in the classroom, but you had ability to
You control the classroom. They had good respect for your teacher.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is, back then we probably did, but the stuff that the teacher had to go through was probably nowhere near what we have now. And, I thank you, we all thank you for all the teachers and everybody that has to do their stuff. I wouldn't want to do it. So, I'm done.
Okay, anything else, Todd? Okay, Diane?
Grateful. I was unable to attend the September meeting, but have anything to hand out tonight. I do want to make mention of the all boards dinner is Wednesday, October 24th at 7 p.m. There will be a speaker there. I think she was the same speaker that was at the Randolph Community Center. I can't think of her name. Kathleen, yeah, she's going to be her speaker. At anything at 7 p.m. And they had postcards mailed out for anyone to return back by tomorrow. So if you're interested in going, you need to mail your postcard back. That's all I have for me.
Thank you.
Until next month.
Ken, legislator?
Yeah, you know what, we just got an email with who we have so far, Diane. I'm going, Nick,
I'm planning on it. Rob's flying in that night. I have to pick him up there, but I don't know his flight time yet. So as soon as I find that
Is
out.
he going to go with you if you go?
No, probably.
I'm taking.
All right, okay.
He'll be gone for 5 days, so I doubt he'll be going. Must have done.
You can bring a guest.
Yes.
There's the culinary arts.
They do a phenomenal job.
They
They
do
do.
a nice job.
They do. And the
The criminal justice.
Criminal justice do all the parking and, you know, keeping on the parking lot.
We don't have horticulture.
It's gone. They used to do all the centerpieces.
Centerpiece, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have that anymore. But the,
Called the roots in, right? Or whatever you guys said, sprouts.
Sprouts. Sprouts need to go up. They need to make a centerpiece. But yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you. Ken, you have anything on legislative?
The General Assembly's in a recess right now, so there's not much coming out of Columbus. We do have the OSBA Capital Conference sessions coming up, and if you read through your briefcase that we get, there's some pretty interesting sessions that's going to be offered, so I know that I'll be attending a number of days, and really look forward to having an opportunity to maybe clarify some of our issues from the Columbus standpoint. If they're out of session, they're not hurting us anymore, so that's a good
We
thing.
know.
Other than that, for lack of time, I'll move on.
Okay. Does anybody have anything under new business?
Who's all going? The 11th? It's the
11th through the 14th.
I'll be down there Sunday through Wednesday morning.
Sunday, through Wednesday.
Are you going?
I gotta see if I can juggle some things on my work schedule.
It's the 11th. I guess I'm gonna write it down since I'm going.
I was planning on going Sunday through Tuesday, but now the athletic awards banquet is Monday night. So I don't know what I'm doing. I may go Sunday and come back Monday afternoon. So yeah, so that kind of throws a kink in things, so. So I don't know what I'm doing yet. But right now I'm planning, I told Todd I'm planning on going Sunday and coming back Monday afternoon. At least I'll be there for Monday meetings. I mean, I can always drive back down Tuesday morning. Yeah, I could do that. So, but I don't know. So, I can't miss it.
It's Tuesday night.
It's Monday. The football one is Thursday night. No. So, anyway. So,
We'll all be in touch with each of you.
I'll let you know.
Prior to that.
Yeah, I mean,
You could always go back Tuesday morning.
I could, but we're all out of town. So, it's just a scheduling nightmare for me, so. But I'm going to be there as much as I can. So, Ken, you're going home? And Steve, you're planning on going home?
Yeah, I won't get down there till late Sunday.
Okay. Good. Well, just keep Todd informed of what you're doing. Okay. Any other new business? Okay.
The girls
Senate.
tied.
Did they?
Yeah.
Consent agenda, so in addition to the H through J that Todd mentioned being added on to the superintendent part, we'll add on K, also pass this around here, like passing around to read it.
Oh, you've already typed it up?
Yeah, it's to recommend to approve the resolution determining to submit to the electors of the Waterloo Local School District the question of levying an additional tax to avoid an operating deficit pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.194 to 5705.197 in the amount of $939,557 each year for a period of 5 years at the February 5th, 2013 election, only if the levy attempt on November 6, 2012 is non-successful.
We'll have to pull that off, right?
Yeah, we'll do another one, but we wanted to put that on here so it's in the minutes and everywhere else, that the only reason is just in case.
Did you want to go over anything
No,
else?
nothing else. Everything else has a little written explanation.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as corrected, or as added?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ann? Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Motion carried.
Yes.
Whittlesey?
Yes.
Trump?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, can I have a motion to recess into executive session for A2, which is employment, C and D as listed above?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Steve, Brian. Any questions, comments? Roll call?
Motion carried.
Yes.
Whittlesey?
Yes.
Trump?
Yes,
Fletcher?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
motion passes.
Do not anticipate.
We
any
do not
action.
anticipate any action coming out of
Yeah,
executive session.
We're fine.
By the way, I come in from Alliance for meeting, saw a ton of signs.
Vision, good.
All kinds
That's
of
great.
signs.
We're gonna move, we need to move into the computer room where
Okay.
where the phone is.
Can you give me a second?
Yeah, Diane needs a second.